Hi everybody. My name is Jerry Wise, and I'm a life and relationship coach and the founder of Jerry Wise Relationship Systems. And this video is entitled 6 Steps to Defining Yourself and also lowering your anxiety in relationships. I would like you to join the YouTube channel, please. I'd also like you to become a paid member for $1.99 a month to help support new videos that I'd like to put out. They do take time and effort and energy to produce. I also have a master class coming up on December 5th, 2020, on Saturday from 1 to 5 p.m. Eastern Time. It'll be on Zoom. It'll be live with me. And you can go to my website, jerrywiserelationshipsystems.com, and sign up for that workshop. I don't have them very often, so if you'd like to try one, I think you might find it enjoyable. We're going to be doing training and then also some role plays too with folks. Kathleen Smith has a great new book entitled Everything Isn't Terrible. Conquer your insecurities, interrupt your anxiety, and finally calm down. She's a Murray Bowen Family Systems author, and it's a great new book. I would suggest you get that. I believe there are 6 steps to define yourself as she does, and she does a great job of summarizing these at the end of her chapter 4. I wanted to describe these to you. I've been sharing these for years. And Bowen and other Murray Bowen followers are familiar with most of these. And in fact, most of them are ones that we describe and talk about often. We are always looking for new and different ways to describe the process of self-differentiation, because it's not just a linear process of do A, B, and C, and then you're all done. That's more of a quick fix, and quick fixes don't tend to really fix in the long run. They fix in the short run, and then often fall apart or fall away. These steps are simply not a linear process, and you just do these and boom, and you're done. Calming down, defining yourself, involves a lifelong process of observing, evaluating, and interrupting over and over again. And when I mean interrupting our functioning in the system. Observing, evaluating, and interrupting our functioning in the system over and over again. And the benefit of doing that is you begin to get calmer and calmer and calmer and less reactive and less having a feel-think experience where we don't separate our feelings and thinking. And we are also, again, less reactive when we become calmer. We are more the adults we want to be and more our age. Number 1, start focusing on yourself and not on others. You've heard me say that probably 1,000 times on my videos. We have to understand how we currently manage our anxiety in our relationships, with our families, at work, at church, in the synagogue, in the mosque, anywhere where the PTO, anywhere where we gather, Bible studies. Wherever there are more than one person, you're going to have a relationship system. And anxiety is possible in any of those systems. And it's more likely it will be possible. Because even a dyad, which is a 2-person system, will eventually have anxiety in it. And how you manage that is very important. We ask questions often to find someone to blame. We will need to reframe our questions. For example, shifting them from why to how. Now, you've heard me say many times about don't ask how questions. It's typically about when. But in this instance, I'm using how a little differently. For example, why does my mother-in-law keep ignoring me? Very other-focused question. Versus, how do I function when my mother-in-law ignores me? What do I feel? How do I act? That's very self-focused and also is important for our own functioning. Asking the why question will not necessarily help us regulate ourselves or be self-regulated. We'll keep the focus on, why does my mother-in-law keep doing that? I just get mad at her. It's so frustrating. I don't say anything because I don't want to cause a problem, but I'll just go home and feel irritated and annoyed. Begin to notice what you do to manage your reactivity and underlying anxiety in relationships. Often the anxiety at first can be very unconscious because we're not used to being aware of it. Then we begin to notice it more. And we begin to notice that when we start feeling that anxiety, then feelings and thoughts start to flow in. And that's a beginning to us understanding how we can actually change ourselves. I may not be able to change my mother-in-law and how she ignores me. And probably won't be able to change that at all. Maybe I need to talk to her. Maybe we need to have a one-on-one. Maybe I can ask, my partner, my wife, about their mother and see what's up, and so I can get greater understanding. But also, I want to be careful about triangulating. Now I'm going to talk to my wife, for example, and tell her everything about how I hate it when her mother ignores me. And now we're throwing a triangle into the game, which causes more anxiety, not less. Margaret Paul, in her book Inner Bonding, suggests we might also want to check with our inner child and find out what he or she is feeling and thinking. Remember, these feelings and thoughts are triggered by these events, but are not caused by others. Because my mother-in-law is ignoring me, does not immediately cause all the feelings in me. I may have feelings as a result of interacting with her ignoring me, but that's not causing it. Because there are some people who can be ignored, they don't have any of those feelings. They are detached and just walk on. So it's not a cause. Because if it's a cause, then it would cause that in everybody. And I don't think I'm not reacting because anybody in the world ignores me. Some people I don't care about. It's often the people we do care about that we get triggered by them. But that's not the same thing as them causing it. Check out my video that I released a week or so ago, The 8 False Beliefs That Control Our Life. I would recommend you check out that video. Number 2, practice separating your thinking from your feelings. Our maturity and our level of self-differentiation can be measured by how well we separate feelings and thoughts. Now that may sound funny. Well, I know what my feelings are. I know what my thoughts are. Or many people will go, I have no idea what my feelings are. All I know are what my thoughts are. And oftentimes we will use thoughts as feelings. That's particularly true for ACOAs, adult children of alcoholics, adult children of narcissists, and other folks who have been through toxic or traumatic dysfunctional families. When our maturity and our level of self-differentiation can be measured by how well we separate feelings and thoughts. We then can begin to think about what is real and what is imaginary. What is real and what's going on in my limbic system way back here, the older brain, so to speak, and how it triggers me. What is real and what is being triggered inside of me. Let me give you an example. In separating thoughts from feelings, this is what a lot of people think a feeling is. I feel you are judging me. Is that a feeling or a thought? I use the word feel, but it's really not a feeling. It is a thought. Ask ourselves, what do we feel when we have these thoughts? So when I feel or when I think somebody is judging me, and maybe they are overtly judging you, oh, that dress could be a little better. That suit, do you really think that suit looks so good on you, Jerry? I feel sadness and or rejection. These are feelings. And so we want to practice separating thoughts from feelings. When am I thinking? When am I feeling? And so many times when I ask clients, well, what are you feeling right now? They will also often tell me a thought. And they may not be connected to their feelings. And then we do that feelings work to help them with that. Or, I feel you are trying to hurt me or trying to make me feel stupid. That's not feelings. Those are thoughts. When someone wants to behave hurtfully, I may feel hurt. I may feel defensive. When someone says or believes I'm acting stupid, I feel shame or I feel hurt. These are feeling statements. So when you make thoughts and you make them sound like feelings, make sure they're feelings. And you can go online and get feelings lists and try to identify feelings versus thoughts. That's an important skill because if you can identify the difference, you can actually become calmer. Rather than what I have or what I consider feel think. And that's where I feel you're trying to hurt me. I feel you're judging me. That's a process that doesn't narrow down what's a thought and what's a feeling, and it's an automatic feel thought. And that's more reactive, rather than slowing it down and making a distinction between the two. That's a practice of self-differentiation. It will eventually help us lower our anxiety. Number 3, practice differentiating your thoughts and emotions from those of others. So first we want to identify what are our thoughts and feelings. Then we want to practice separating my thoughts and my feelings from others. Separate how you feel and think from how others feel and think. Often we begin this process by having a hard time thinking and feeling for ourselves. And so it can be difficult to think and feel for ourselves. Many times we are deluded, or we just are in denial, or we don't see it, we're not insightful or aware that actually we're not thinking for ourselves. We're just pinging off other people. We're just reacting to what other people, how we're relating to other people. And we're not thinking and feeling for ourselves. An example. Dad says, I don't know why you don't get a real job, Jerry. Dad is feeling shamed or feels upset that I'm not in a job he feels would be best for me, or might be a better image for the family. His shame and his upset are contagious and triggers my feeling of shame and guilt, and I react as either a victim or a Viking. Either I get mad or I just cave in. So my feelings are directly tied to his. This emotional current that's running through me ends up creating enmeshment within the family, within me and Dad, let's say. Versus, hey Dad, I'm sorry you feel I don't have a real job. It doesn't upset me that I'm happy with my job. Hey, how's your golf game? If you notice, my thoughts and feelings are now not connected to Dad's. We don't have an umbilical cord of emotionality that's between us. He has his view and I have mine. And we stay detached in a healthy way while still being connected. But there's a detachment there. We're not operating off the same umbilical cord, so to speak. Fourthly, observe how you borrow functioning from others and utilize your pseudo-self. Well, what is a pseudo-self? And I've had people ask me about that. A real self is not defined or reactivated or activated by others. It's not changeable. The part of us that's shaky and changeable based on our relationship with others is the pseudo-self. That's what the pseudo-self is. In other words, I feel and think based on what you feel and think. And I react to that. That's my pseudo-self, not my real self. It's a reactive self. In the previous example with Dad, for example, Dad is upset with his own dead-end job. He wishes to borrow some self from me by shaming or guilting me via his own projection, right? Now again, we are working on how we borrow or loan functioning from others, to others, from others. And then I react and want to loan self to Dad by feeling it's my fault or failing, and thus making him feel better about his rightness or himself. I have just now loaned self to him. He's just borrowed self from me by me being a victim and saying, well, you're right, Dad. I don't know why I don't get a better job. Now he's just borrowed self from me and I've just loaned it to him. And we do this loaning and borrowing often because of that umbilical cord that we have. Because it's really not about the job between, say, Dad and I. It's about our borrowing and loaning of self. And so we want to work on reducing borrowing and loaning of self. Or I could also try to borrow self from him by trying to get his approval. Oh, but Dad, I just got a little raise, and they really think I'm doing a great job. I'm trying to get his approval. I'm trying to get his acceptance. Thus, he then says, oh, okay, I didn't know that. And now he's just given me, and I have just received some borrowed self from him. And I've just borrowed it. And now I feel better and accepted by him. But that pseudo-self operation is what all of that is. Or I could become angry and act like a Viking and get mad at Dad to flex my pseudo-self and use him to feel more powerful and take away some of his self. Well, you stupid old man, you've never accepted me. I don't know why you don't accept me. That's just becoming a Viking. I'm angry, I'm reactive, and now I'm going to become powerful by making him weak. And so I've borrowed self from him. And he loses self. He loans self to me because he feels worse. Number 5, begin to define your beliefs and principles. It's hard to be a true self without beliefs, preferences, and principles. What do you believe? How do you see the world? What is loving? What is loving to you? What is toxic to you? And in this instance with Dad and I, let's say, though we didn't have this conversation, but we had others, that what do I believe about my job? What do I believe? Am I okay with it? Even if he's not? What are my beliefs about it? And if I am fuzzy about all those beliefs, then we're going to be borrowing, loaning, sharing, shifting self back and forth and back and forth because nobody's on a firm foundation. Nobody has a solid self. And so we just keep pinging, borrowing, and loaning self back with each other. We want to begin to shift from a no mooring and no principle or no perspective life to choosing an intentional belief life. Because the first life, we're just going to be blown with the wind. The second life, we're going to be more secure and our anxiety will go down. It does take some work to decide, what do I believe? And you can start with things as simple as, what kind of ice cream do I like? Do I prefer butter pecan or vanilla or chocolate or strawberry? No, I think I like chocolate the best. Okay, that's one belief, one principle I have. Doesn't mean I can never eat any other ice cream, but I know that's my top favorite. That's having a belief and a preference. This helps us to reduce our anxiety by our own beliefs and principles, helping to direct ourselves and our emotions, versus letting others' beliefs and principles and perspective direct our own emotional life and our own reactions. Let me give you an example of that. Let's say a sister, I'm going to use a pretend family. I do have a sister, but she's not an alcoholic. My sister, I'm going to say my sister is an alcoholic and comes to Thanksgiving dinner drunk with her husband and kids. She's obnoxious, abusive, and disrespectful. Now, let's take the I have no principles, beliefs, or self-perspective, Jerry. I don't know what I believe. I don't know what I know. I'm just an umbilical cord connected to the family. And I adopt the family's denial perspective that's within my family, in that this is the way she's always been. And so as a result of that, it triggers my caretaking or rescuing of my parents from my sister, also wanting to rescue myself from my sister. I get angry with her and demand she leave. And everybody, mom and dad are hurt and wonder why I've been so mean to my sister. Everyone is mad at me and feels sorry for my sister. And now who gets to be the scapegoat? Out of my reactivity, now I've become the scapegoat because I was over-functioning and I was being the Viking because I was tired of being the victim, so I became a Viking instead. Viking or victim can still be problematic. Using a scenario in which my beliefs are more firm and thought out and accepted by myself, I have come out of denial, where my family may not have, acknowledging my sister is an alcoholic. Secondly, principle, I do not believe it is kind or respectful to be treated badly at Thanksgiving dinner when we all could be cordial. And I'm going to talk about could. We'll come to that. But that is at least the goal. Thirdly, mom and dad allow this because they have few of their own values or beliefs or perspective or awareness of the situation. Fourthly, I have a value or belief that I would like to stay in contact with my family, but not with the abuse or with disrespect. Fifthly, knowing this beforehand, because I've become more clear to myself, knowing this beforehand, I choose to only be at my parents' house for a shorter time and only there for the meal, and leave with my family after the meal. And if somebody asks me about why are you leaving, then I can either say, well, there are things that happen that I'm just not comfortable with. We're just going to head out. We wanted to have dinner with you. We did. And now we're heading out. Hope you have a great Thanksgiving. Happy Thanksgiving to you. If we do that enough times, then our short visit becomes more accepted in the family systems that's just how Jerry is. He's only going to be here for the dinner, then he's going to leave. I don't know why he's being that way, but I guess that's what we have to put up with. Not we have to put up with the sister who's an alcoholic. We have to put up with Jerry, who only wants to be here a short time because of the alcoholic, let's say. Sixthly, practice defining yourself in significant relationships. The practice of defining oneself with others can temporarily increase anxiety in the system, which is why so many of us avoid it. We don't want to have increased anxiety, so we avoid that like the plague. And if I go and say, hey, I'm going to change the way I typically do Thanksgiving dinner with the family, all of a sudden the anxiety starts to go up within me and often within them as well. If we can stay calm, that can go miles to make that work out better for us and for the family. In the previous example with my sister, let's say, who again is not an alcoholic, but in this situation she is, in the previous example, telling mom and dad that I have a hard time celebrating when someone is an alcoholic and becomes abusive to others. And I would say a practicing alcoholic, not a recovering alcoholic, but someone who comes drunk and is out of control. Mom and dad say, oh, your sister is not an alcoholic. She is just very stressed and may have drank a few too many. With her kids and her job, I can understand her doing that. Mom and dad, you're free to think those things, of course. I disagree, and so I will be coming to the family dinners for only the eating part of the meal. I want to spend time with the entire family, which is why I'm coming, but I don't want unnecessary conflict with my sister due to her drinking. I love her, but she is not well. Oh, she's fine. She's been this way forever. I know she's been this way forever. I understand that. But I see it differently. I'm not sure I see her as well. If we play this broken record, oftentimes resistance gets lowered in the family, and or they simply accept that you feel differently, even though they don't agree with you, and you feel differently than they do, and accept your boundaries over time. Now, that's not with malignant, serious, toxic families. That's when families who have some sense of awareness and some genuine caring for each other. Not a family filled with personality disorders. So I wanted to share these 6 things with you. I hope they have been a help, or at least stirred your thinking about these things. Please join my YouTube channel and my paid membership for $1.99 and help me make more of these free videos. Sign up for the workshop on December 5th, Reducing Your Reactivity. I want to thank you for watching today. Subscribe to this YouTube channel. You can join me on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter. I've been putting up a lot of good quotes that are differentiating oriented, also involving narcissism, codependency, on my Facebook page, Jerry Wise Relationship Systems. And I think you will find those quotes a help to you. I want to thank you for joining me today. Have a great day. And be wise. Hi, everyone. My name is Jerry Wise. I work with a lot of adult children of narcissists or adult children of dysfunctional families. And I want to share with you 7 things you can't count on narcissistic parents to do. There are several reasons why I want to share these. So many times, adult children of narcissists will blame themselves for how difficult the relationship is between them and their narcissistic parent. They also will wonder why they don't have more compassion for their parent, or will wonder so much why their parent doesn't have compassion for them, and they get stuck in those wonderings. And I think a part of healing and recovery is to detach from those wonderings. And that's part of what I try to provide in my online program that I've listed below. And that program does include a 12-month program in which I work with you in a group setting each month. So you might check that out. So what's the first thing that we can't count on narcissistic parents to do? To have doubts and regrets. Narcissistic parents don't have doubts and don't have regrets. They're right, and they've never done anything wrong. So what have they to doubt about, and what have they to even worry about doubting, and what have they have to regret? They don't have the kind of regrets that you and I might have, or even the doubts that you and I might have. I think doubts is a part of a healthy mind and a healthy heart. I didn't say doubting everything, and I don't doubt that the sun will probably come up tomorrow. But if you have no doubts and no regrets, I'm not sure that's a healthy mindset or psychological set. Even if I believe in faith, even if I believe in a religious belief, I still think there's a place for us to struggle with those things. The narcissistic parent doesn't struggle with those. Number 2, to do good when nobody's watching. A healthy person, a recovering person, can do good with no one watching. A narcissist cannot do that. Now, they may do it in a private way, but they're hoping someone will see it eventually and attribute that to them. So they don't just do good when they cannot be credited for it in some direct or indirect way. You and I might do that. We might do something good. Like we might stop by and help someone who's got a flat tire. I might see someone who's struggling, or maybe a woman with 2 kids and it's cold out or rainy. Hey, can I give you a ride? You can sit in the back. You can, here's my driver's license. If I can help you, this is inclement weather, let me help you with that. But I don't need to tell everybody about that. I don't need to put it on Facebook. I don't need to, now I may be telling you about it right now, but that's way after the fact. And I'm not looking for praise or appreciation. I can do good when no one's watching. And I believe a narcissist cannot. They have to be a center of attention. They have to have an audience. They don't just do good because. They do good because something. And so we find that's one of the things you can't count on them to do. Number 3, we can't count on the narcissistic parent to react in a situational, appropriate way. If something is serious or difficult, they may react in a nonplussed way. In serious situations, when nothing's really happening and it's no big deal, they may react to a 10 on a 10 scale and become overly reactive. We can't count on them to be situationally appropriate or emotionally, mentally, or behave well or appropriate to the situation. Can't count on them for that. All you can count on is that they won't. And even if they do, I often get very suspect at that point. If they do react in a situational appropriate way, because I'm going, what game might they be playing? Because many times they are playing a game. And they will be charming at times and seemingly very situationally appropriate. But they're trying to do something. It's Machiavellian in some way. Number 4, to leave room for your feelings, thoughts, or ideas, or beliefs. The narcissist is not really interested in your feelings, your thoughts, or your ideas, or your beliefs. That's not something that they are able to do or able to do well. They might patronize you a little bit. That can happen. I've seen narcissists be patronizing. But usually it's not for the for connect's sake. It's not just because they're warm or they're caring, because the narcissist is bigger than life and they take up the whole room, and there's not much room for the rest of us mortals. Number 5, you cannot count on a narcissistic parent to comfort you when you are mistreated by others. Often, what do you hear when you might complain about being mistreated by others? The narcissistic parent will say, they had it a lot worse than that. Even spouses that I've worked with recently, one husband said, hey, my brother bullied me and was even physically abusive to me. And the wife goes, yeah, but, I had it a lot worse than that. My father tried to kill me and my mother didn't want me. And she made that very clear to me. While I understand that may be more severe than what the husband had gone through, but a narcissist will use their own lens to see your trauma and your problems. A caring, mature adult person will see your problems apart from themselves and be able to be of comfort or nurturing. You go, oh, well, I'm sorry to hear that. That's terrible. I'm sure that was very difficult growing up with your brother, bullying you or physically abusive. Because I'm separate from you. The narcissist is enmeshed. And so they only see your pain, your difficulties through their difficulties, pain, what they've been through. They can't see you as a separate person. And so that's why they go, well, I had it worse than that. I'm going, well, I didn't say you didn't have it worse than that. I was only talking about Jerry. I wasn't talking about your experience and your pain. But that gets all enmeshed for a narcissistic parent. So we can't count on them to comfort us when we have been mistreated. Number 6, you cannot count on narcissistic parents to avoid constant manipulation, humiliation, and devaluation. You can't count on them to avoid those things. Just when you think it might be a situation where they're not going to be like that, maybe it's in public, maybe it's at an event, and boom, they'll come out with some humiliating or devaluating comments or looks or whisperings, or they will just come out with that kind of devaluation. And also it can be rather subtle. And I remember I just had a situation. The family member said to someone, oh, this is your new apartment. Oh, you actually have it put together. They could have said, it looks so nice, you've got it put together. But they use the word actually, which means I'm shaming you about the past. Because in the past, you may not have been actually had it together, and I've thought you haven't. And so I'm going to share this humiliating statement with you. And there are many ways those subtle kinds of shaming statements can happen. And we generally know those as being double-edged. And oftentimes I'll say, well, I'm not sure which part of that to respond to, sis. The compliment or the criticism or the shaming. I'm not sure which one to respond to. Because on the one hand, you're saying this looks great. On the other hand, you're saying, finally, it looks great. You actually have this done. Finally. And it's like, wait a minute. You're not my parent. You don't direct what I have to have together or not together. But a narcissist or a narcissist family member, you can't count on them to avoid those things. They must do them. Manipulation, humiliation, devaluation. Number 7, you can't count on the narcissistic parent to celebrate your successes. and your high points, the high points of your life, or high points, or your joy with you, unless they can eclipse the spotlight in some way. In other words, oh, I'm so glad I had a son who could do this. I'm so glad I had a daughter who was able to achieve this. And it's almost like they achieved this. The daughter graduates from law school or graduates from medical school or gets some award or some sports award. And I'm so glad that I had a daughter and all of my support helped her be here. They cannot celebrate your successes without being enmeshed with them and making them their own, or absconding with them emotionally. They abscond. They take it from you and put the medal on themselves. And so you can't count on them to just celebrate and let you enjoy your moments. Either your downsides or your good sides. They can't let you just have them. They have to interact with them through their lens and their pathology. They have to interact in that way. Hey, I've got an online program that will help you to heal in these ways that I've been talking about and to recover from being an adult child of a dysfunctional family. And I talk about many things that will help you do that. Certainly, again, I've added on there a monthly group session for everyone who joins the program that's listed below. I hope you will join. And I want to thank you very much for listening and watching today. I hope you have a great day and be wise. Hi everybody. My name is Jerry Wise. I'm a life and relationship coach, and this is the 15 assertive rights as an adult. This is part 2. This is rules 5 through 10. You can find 1 through 5 rules on my previous video. And I hope you'll subscribe, like, comment, and join, and help support the channel so we can continue to provide for you free videos. Today, we're going to start with assertiveness right number 6. Adults have the right to say, I don't know. None of us have to have an immediate answer to questions or to every potential problem. The myths that are out there are that if you make mistakes, bad choices, errors, they should never be made because you don't know something. In other words, I should have known. Well, we can't know what we don't know. And many times I think, 30 years ago, I should have known this. I should have done this. Well, I didn't know to do that. I didn't know. And I have a right to not know, because all of us don't know many things. Another myth that's out there is you should have had all the answers to any questions and about the possible consequences of your actions, and that you must be controlled. So you need to have and know all of these things. But I have the right to say, I don't know what would happen if this, and this. I don't know what would happen. How would you feel if this happened, Jerry? I don't know how I would feel. And oftentimes, speculation is manipulative. In other words, what if this happened? Shouldn't you know what shouldn't you know this, and shouldn't you know what the consequences would be? I may not know. So many times manipulation is often speculative. And people want to control us based on what they think would happen. And don't I know what's going to happen? Well, I may not know. A husband might say, what kind of wife would let her husband make a fool of himself at the wedding? I don't know what kind of wife would do that. What did you do that for? I don't know. And I have a right to not know. I may not know. Why did you change your mind? I don't know. Because I did. Why did you pick that car to purchase? I don't know. Why didn't you tell me what you were doing? I don't know. And it's okay to not know. You have to accept me with what I don't know. As a workshop leader, teacher, pastor, therapist, coach, things I've done throughout my life, I felt I should know all the answers. And I should know all the answers about everything. Often we caregivers find ourselves in that position where we feel like we should know everything. And I think it's much more humility if we have that, if we can admit and accept that we don't know everything. Even today, I will struggle with occasionally feel like I should be knowing something and that there's something defective in me if I don't know. A client might ask, hey, Jerry, would you like to try the KCRQ program? I would like to try that KCRQ program. What do you think about this? It takes courage to say, well, I'm sorry, I don't know what the KCRQ program is. Could you explain that to me? Now, they may think, well, why doesn't he know this? I don't know. I may know it by another name. I may not know it at all. There are many therapy modalities that I'm not an expert in, so that I don't know the jargon for everything and everybody and everything that's come up in the world of psychology. I don't know. I used to not ask questions when I was in a group for fear people would think I don't know what they know. If I'm asking this question, why do I need to ask this question? I should already know. Or what they would think, or what's wrong with Jerry that he's asking this question? Well, I don't know if there's anything wrong with me. I just don't know. But I'm doing much better at finding out that often I'm not the only one to have these questions, and I'm not the only one who doesn't know. In a group setting or in an individual setting, I may not know what the KCRQ program is. I don't know what that is. Now, if you explain it to me, then I might go, oh, well, I kind of have some idea what that's about. But I don't know it by that jargon and by those words. And many people will expect you to know everything. Just like in me dealing with narcissistic families, narcissistic adult children of narcissists, often there will be all kinds of jargon. Well, I may not remember that jargon phrase. I may not know what that means. It's just what everybody's been saying on this particular group chat, and they're using that language. And somehow I should know that. And if I don't know that, what's wrong with Jerry? Why is he lacking knowledge? Because I don't know everything. And it's okay to not know everything. Assertive right number 7. You have the right to be independent of the goodwill of others before coping with them. And again, the great book that I would suggest you might read is When I Say No, I Feel Guilty by Manuel Smith. That is a great book that would help you with some of these rules. And then I'm adding more rules to the list of my own. It is manipulative and emotional blackmailing to use your goodwill or good deeds to get someone to do something they may not wish to do or have a free right to decide whether they want to do it or not. This is a common sales tactic that includes you not having this right. In other words, you have to deal with my goodwill in making your decision. The salesperson, if you're buying a car, they say, oh, well, I'll let you go drive the car for all afternoon and see how you like it or not. And then when you have questions about the car or you're not sure you want to buy it, it's like, well, I let you drive the car all afternoon. No, that was goodwill that you did for me. I can set that aside and make the decision about the car. I don't have to take that in as that I'm beholding to you and I must buy this car. In fact, I let you take it overnight. Okay, well, you let me do that. but that doesn't mean I owe you to buy it. You're doing something with regard to showing your goodwill. But that's not going to be a manipulative tactic for me. Family members can do this as well. Your brother, who is, let's say, an alcoholic or has some problem, says, I need you to bail me out of jail. I just got a DUI. And he's had other problems before many times. You say, but that's more than I can spend right now. Or that you feel this is the universe trying to talk to your brother about his problem. And your brother says, but I've always fixed your car when you needed it fixed, Jerry. So why can't you bail me out of jail? Again, wanting to use the goodwill as to why you should be doing what he wants. I can make a decision while being independent of the goodwill he has done. I don't want to make a decision that's a poor one for him and a poor one for me, just because he has fixed my car a couple of times, or even 100 times. I understand that's his generosity and he was willing to do that, but that doesn't mean I owe him bail money for poor choices he has made. And I can make decisions independent of the goodwill of others. Mom and dad bring over a big full meal for you and your family. They also write you a check to help you with the bills. And then they want to talk about why you've decided not to come over to their house on Christmas Day, which we have always done in our family. You have the right to be independent of their goodwill and the goodwill of your parents before coping or making your own decisions about what they want. Mom and Dad, we have decided we want Christmas Day for our family. We'll come over any other day to visit with you. And by the way, thank you so much for the meal and for your financial support. Again, I'm dealing with these separately. The Christmas Day event and the meal and the financial help. Those are separate things. But if someone wants to manipulate us, they will pull those things together. We often have this childish belief that we cannot function properly if we do things that cause other people to remove their goodwill towards us, even a little bit. We have the right to not live in terror of hurting other people's feelings. And as Dr. Smith says in his book, sometimes we will offend. That's big boy life. I'm sorry, sometimes we will offend. That brother may be offended that you didn't bail him out of jail because he fixed your car so many times. Well, welcome to the world of feeling offended. I mean, have you never felt offended? I mean, we all will and do. And also we have a right to make our decisions independent of the goodwill of other people. Assertiveness right number 8. You have the right to be illogical in decision making. We can choose to be illogical in our decision making. Logic is good when not used in a manipulative or resistant way. Logic is very good. We live based on logic and rationality. That's a very important thing. But logic is more of a black and white, yes and no type of thinking. We need this for sure, but it does not deal with conflicting motivations, conflicting wants, conflicting emotions. These don't feel to us in terms of all or nothing, because we can have conflicting feelings and thoughts and emotions, and logic doesn't clear that up always. It does not tend to take into consideration the grayness of the human condition. Logic often does not do that. And there's that myth, you must always follow logic because it will always make better judgments than any of us can make. Well, I haven't found that always to be true. I remember a priest or a pastor that I had in my church. He was single. And all of the logic, tradition, rules, and conventional wisdom in the church said he should not marry, because in the tradition I was in, if you were a pastor or a priest, and whatever state you were in that you entered the ministry, that's the state you should stay in. If you're married, that's okay. If you're not married, you need to stay unmarried after you become a pastor. Well, he had fallen in love with a parishioner in the church. And again, they'd say, well, pastors shouldn't be dating the flock. Well, and that's a generally good rule. But are there exceptions to that? And actually, I was the bishop at the time and could make that decision. And I felt an illogical decision was the best. And a decision that might go against the rules given the situation. They ended up becoming married. She and he were a wonderful couple. She was divorced. He had never been married. And she was a wonderful woman, a wonderful parishioner, and had come from a very negative background, and she had children. And I knew it would be a challenge for them, but they definitely were coming at it from a very mature place. And so I felt, yes, let's go ahead and let's have you get married. They were a great couple. They are still happily married to this day. That was 35 or so years ago. And they've had a wonderful life together. I think if I would have used the logic, the rules and traditions at that time and only went by that and not the complicated information of conflicting emotions, thoughts, etc., that the choice that I made was a great one, and it was a great one for them. And so I think not always is you have a right to be illogical in your decision making. Assertiveness right number 9. You have the right to say, I don't understand. I like what Dr. Manuel Smith says. Not one of us is so quick-witted, so perceptive as to fully understand even most of what goes on around us. I think he's probably right. If you understood, you would see it my way, what many people think. Others would think, well, you lack understanding, so believe my approach. And if you truly understood, you would be feeling this or that right now. Well, wait a minute. I have the right to say I don't understand. I remember when I first went to a doctor, I'd been seeing probably for 10 years, and we had become friends, and I was going to the doctor's office, and I went in. It was quite a while ago, and the office said, well, we need to get a photo of you. I said, well, I don't understand. I haven't had a photo on file here for 10 years. I'm not sure. Well, it's our policy. And the girl behind the desk, the person behind the desk, could not tell me why they were doing it. And I said, well, it may be the policy, but I don't understand what the policy is. And she said, well, it's just our policy. I still don't understand. And I said, no, I don't want to have my photo taken. I said, I'll ask the doctor what he would like me to do. And I had been seeing him for a long time. And the doctor said, don't worry about it. And now I came to find out more why they might do that. If someone's coming to pick up a script or a prescription, it's good to have the person's face so someone else is not coming in and pretending to be you and picking up medication or a prescription. Well, if she'd explained that might have helped me, but it was just policy. But I don't understand. And I have a right to not understand. And I have a right to say no. I'll talk to the doctor. If he thinks that will heal me to have the picture taken, I'll get it taken. I think I don't understand works very well with codependent muddle, I call, and negative judgments. Codependent muddle is when someone's just going all around they're hiding kind of behind their words. They kind of are not clear about what they're saying. Then I say, well, I just don't understand. I'm sorry. And then negative judgments. If someone says, well, Jerry, you're just an awful person, I would say, I don't understand. Because that doesn't make any sense to me. I'm not an awful person. So why would I understand that? I'm sorry, I don't understand. Are you upset? You might be upset, but the content of what you said doesn't make any sense. Why did you buy that car? I'd never get a car like that, Jerry. It doesn't have good gas mileage and all kinds of problems. Well, Bob, I don't understand. Well, I'm just telling you, I would never buy a car like that. Well, I still don't understand. Well, yes, I know you would not buy a car like that. But it sounds like you think I should not buy a car like that. Actually, that's my decision to make. So I don't understand what he's not really telling me what's behind the words. He's just expressing his opinions that are kind of intrusive. And he's not aware of that. Mary, a woman asked her friend Mary, would you like to go to the museum? Mary really doesn't want to go, but she's codependent. And she says, well, you rarely get out these days, Jerry. Well, I really would like to go. Are you sure? We'll be getting back late. Well, I'm sorry, Mary. I'm not sure I understand. And the implication is, it sounds like you may want to talk me out of it, or you don't want to go. And, again, it's just, I don't understand the resistance, because you're not telling me what your resistance about. And it may be you don't want to go, but you can't tell me you don't want to go because of the codependent muddle. We talk in codependent muddle language. And we don't just say, Jerry, it might be nice, but I think I'd be getting back too late, and I just prefer not to go, but I appreciate you inviting me. That's non-codependent muddle. The other codependent muddle is putting up all those roadblocks, and you're going, well, that's solvable. I'm not sure I understand what's going on. So I use that with codependent muddle and negative comments. Assertiveness right number 10. You have the right to say, I don't care. Or I have a friend they say care, which is a way of saying I don't care. You have the right to not care about what somebody else cares about. I'm saying that not in that we don't care about other people or we're not empathetic, or I don't mean that. It's just that if someone is intense about something, I have a right to not be intense about that. Someone says, well, there are starving people in Appalachia and they need your hope. We hope you will donate. You will, won't you? Well, I'm sorry. No, thanks. But don't you know there are starving people? I'm quite sure there may be families who are having trouble with food in Appalachia. I'm quite sure. Or any other country. But I have many things that I care about, and this is not one of them at this time. I have a right to not care about what others are caring about. That could be politics, religion, society, mom's hemorrhoids, whatever. Sister's lost phone. I have a right to not care. It's not something that matters to me. And I'm not being mean. It's just I don't have to have the same caring or worrying attention that you have right now about this specific thing. And again, with politics these days, there's a lot of hot issues, and people will come to me and want to say, well, you should be caring about this. Well, I'm sorry, I just don't. Whatever that means, or for whatever reasons, I'll take the consequences, or whatever I don't care about. I just don't care about that. Obviously you do, and you're free to care about it, but there's no necessity for you to try to make me care about it. There is no need for that. And we have the holidays coming up, and families get into all these discussions in the holidays for Thanksgiving, Hanukkah, for, Christmas, and all the holidays that are coming up when families are getting together. And people will try to influence you to care about things you don't care about. You don't care about the same things they do. And it's okay to say, hey, that's just not a focus for me right now. Yeah, but we need to talk about this issue. Well, you're free to talk about it, but I'm sorry, I just don't care about it. And in fact, I may not even care about it for today. Today, I have another focus, being with the family and trying to enjoy myself. I was asked by a viewer once my opinion about a topic, and I don't know this person. I've never met her. It's out of the blue. She asked me what my take would be on how parentification might impact or affect sexual addiction or sexual anorexia, and how they might affect each other. And I said, well, I haven't really thought about that and haven't really seen any research about that. Well, she was upset that I wouldn't give my take on it. Like, well, I should have some opinion on it. Sent her a couple of emails, and I said, well, of the many areas of research, that's not been one of them that I've ever done, and I really don't have an opinion on it. In other words, I don't really care. It's not something I'm caring about right now. You are, but I'm not really caring about it. And again, she was upset that I wouldn't give her my take on it. And it's like, because I don't have a take on it. It doesn't matter to me. Even if I have a take on it, it doesn't matter to me. But you should have some opinion. Well, maybe I should, but it's not a topic that currently interests me at this time. And again, I'm sorry, translate all that, I don't care. I don't have to be rude or bad about it, but I have a right to not care about something that you're caring about. You are the ultimate judge of whether you care about something or not. And people often around us want to should us. You should be this. You should be worrying about this. You should be caring about this. Well, we just don't care. I had clients that had a mixed religious, they were a mixed religious couple. One was a Jewish and one was Muslim, and they wanted to marry. And their families were so upset that they were marrying. Of course, that's not uncommon. I mean, it could be Baptist and Catholic. It could be, Baha'i and Universal Church, Unitarian Church. It could be Mormon, and it could be any kind of couples. And the families are upset about that because their view was you got to marry somebody in the religion that we have. And their beliefs and practices were more important than who they were choosing to marry, was the family's understanding. But neither of the couple were very religious. Both parents wanted the couple to care as much about these issues as they cared about these matters. But they just didn't. They were not religious. They were not, they cared about their family, but they weren't all upset and so religious that they could not marry each other. Mom and Dad, I respect these are your beliefs and values. They are not my values and my beliefs. So we have decided to marry. This could be upsetting to you. You may attend or not attend as you choose for our wedding. We would love for you to attend and support us, and we would be happy to add other traditional things to our wedding from both Jewish and Muslim background. We would be happy to do that. But in other words, we just don't care about these things the same way you do. I hope this has been a help today. Look for part 3, which is assertiveness rules for an adult 11 through 15. That'll be the next video coming up, part 3. Please subscribe, join, like, and comment. I want to thank you all for joining me today. Have a great day and be wise. Hey, hi everyone. My name is Jerry Wise, and for over 45 years I've been helping people heal through self-differentiation to get their family dysfunction out of them and become the true selves they were never allowed to be. In this video, I'm going to talk about 3 issues. that you've probably struggled with your entire life if your parent is a narcissist or is dysfunctional, toxic, neglectful, emotionally immature, or any of the other labels on the spectrum. That oftentimes different problems do cause different effects, but often the problems as to why they're there in the first place have to do with deeper dynamics and deeper emotional dynamics, even underneath the problems. And there are three problems that usually result as the effect of growing up in a narcissistic home. Working with thousands of clients over the years, I often see three common struggles in people with difficult family histories. And I call them the three R's. One R stands for recycling. We tend to recycle the same issues over and over and over again. In other words, let's say you've had a problem growing up in a dysfunctional family and you were programmed with a lot of systems feeling shame. That was a part of the system to keep you functioning in a certain way. You then absorbed this shame, and that became your pseudo self or who you thought you were. And so we then recycle this shame growing up as we become an adult, later as we become an adult in relationships. But we just keep recycling the same issues over and over. They're just newer problems or newer relationships. And so our paradigm doesn't change much from when we grew up with our family. Oftentimes people will believe they have changed so much from their family of origin. In other words, okay, well, my parents were heavily hyper-religious. So then they grow up and they decide they're not going to be religious at all. And so they are going to demonstrate that through, I'm not going to be a part of the church, or I'm not going to believe in God. See how different I am from my family of origin? And my view of it is, no, you're still recycling the same problem. You're just, but the symptoms are different, but it's still the same core problem. Because now it's important to you to be anti-religious versus heavily hyper-religious. Well, anti-religious and hyper-religious are not that far apart. They still have the same paradigm and the same dynamics. They just are demonstrated in a different way. So often we don't change our real paradigm and our real way of thinking, our real emotional life within us, and we just keep recycling the problems. I don't seem to get better. I do learn more. I maybe gain more data, gain more knowledge, which is not bad. Data and knowledge is not bad, but it's not the same thing as becoming whole. Second of all, the second R is for reactivity. We end up being triggered into high reactivity. I've talked to some people who say, oh, well, I'm not reactive. I stay pretty calm most of the time. And so they would say, so when I was growing up, I would stay calm. There would start to be arguing and frustrating going on. And so I just got up and withdrew, and the family never heard from me. That's reactivity going on inside of you. You must withdraw because of the reactivity in that lower brain and what's going on inside your body. You're having this reactivity, but you're not aware of it. But you can either withdraw or you can become embroiled or enmeshed. But actually, both of them are too much closeness. In other words, being anti-something is not the same as being neutral. I'm still pushing against something I don't like or don't want to have. There are reasons how that can be helpful. I'm not against that, but we don't realize how much reactivity there has been in our older generations in the past and in our current family of origin and in ourselves, where most people are not aware of how much reactivity they have and how much anxiety they have as well. Thirdly, the third R is relationships, and that's relationships just aren't working. They're a problem. Maybe I've been married twice, 3 times, just can't find the right person. I've dated different people. I just can't find the person that I can live with or be with. Or maybe the relationships you've been in have been manipulative or abusive, and so relationships just don't seem to work like you'd like them to work. And for many people, their family of origin relationships don't work very well, and their own romantic and friendship relationships don't work very well either. And so relationships always end up being a big problem. And I found that so many of the people I've worked with over these 45 years just did not have a good map. And that's what self-differentiation and family systems thinking will give you a much, much better map and how you deal with all three of these: recycling, reactivity, and relationships that are dysfunctional. Let's go a little deeper into each one. Number one, recycling the same issues over decades. If you grew up in a narcissistic or dysfunctional family, the same emotional struggles and dysfunctional habits tend to follow you throughout life, regardless of how much your circumstances change, until you believe that it's your true self. These unresolved patterns in childhood become integrated and ingrained and show up in every area of life, whether with family or in relationships or even when you're alone. How you treat yourself will find repeating those patterns over and over. How we treat relationships will find a pattern treating them over and over. How we relate to family of origin, again, the problems just continue to recycle. We don't move forward, we just keep staying in a circle. Now, we might have a little bit of improvement, and I'm not saying we don't, as we grow and age or mature, but we still tend to do this and kind of go in circles, or what I also call the pendulum. We'll go over here and be way over here and feel very enmeshed, and then over here we're cutting everybody off because of the enmeshment. So both sides are because of enmeshment. Adults from dysfunctional families, this recycling of emotional challenges often includes carrying old emotional burdens, feeling responsible for others' emotional well-being, a role you learned as a child. And number two, reenacting childhood roles, whether as the peacemaker, the scapegoat, or the perfect child. You may continue playing these roles in adult relationships without even realizing it, because it's just a part of your normalcy. So you may not even see it. It's like asking a fish, do you realize you're swimming in water? And the fish would say, what water? What is water? Because that's their whole habitat. So they don't see it so separate from themselves. Like, water? What's water? Thirdly, guilt and obligation cycles. Setting boundaries may feel like a betrayal to the family or to the family member or even to a husband or a wife or children. Or setting boundaries may feel like a betrayal, causing guilt to pull you back into unhealthy dynamics, making emotional independence very difficult to achieve. So that's a very common problem we have in the recycling of problems. Shame-based thinking messages like I'm not good enough or I have to be perfect to be loved often become ingrained, shaping your self-view and choices in relationships. And that's number four. Number five is setting boundaries too late or not at all. Growing up without healthy boundaries can leave you unsure as to when or how to set them, leading to delayed action or avoidance altogether. And so then when we have trouble setting boundaries, we don't set them in time, or we may not set them at all. That's a recycling problem that can go throughout your whole life. It not only affected you when you were 16, but now at 46, at age 46, you may have difficulty still